Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping straight into the 13th chapter of the book of Joshua.
Right. And chapter 13, it really sets a scene immediately.
It does. It tells us Joshua, well, he's old and well advanced in
Yes, he's gotten
years.
up there. You might think, time to rest, reflect on the big wins they've had since crossing the Jordan.
Exactly. You'd picture him maybe, I don't know, putting his feet up. But the Lord steps in, acknowledges his age, sure, but then drops this reality bomb, basically.
Which
There
is,
are still very large areas of land yet to be taken over.
okay. So the job's not done. That's the core tension right there, isn't it? The leader's old, lots achieved, but, well, big chunks of the promised land are still held by others.
And you'd think the next line would be, okay, Joshua, suit up. One last campaign. Go get him.
Right, that seems like the logical next step in the conquest narrative.
But it's not. That's what's so interesting. The immediate job isn't more fighting led by him personally. It's
Yeah, it is. The command is actually to allocate the land, divide it up as an inheritance for the tribes.
even the parts they haven't fully conquered yet.
Especially those parts. That's the surprising bit. Divide it up now, despite it not being fully possessed.
Wow. Okay, so it's like, here are the keys to the house. Start deciding who gets which room, even though half the house isn't built and someone else is still living on the property.
That's a great analogy. It really forces a perspective based on God's promise, not on what they can see or physically control at that exact moment.
So the mission shifts. Less about Joshua leading battles, more about administrative work, future planning based on faith.
Precisely. It's about trusting the Lord will follow through on his promise to give them the land, and acting on that trust by setting up the inheritance structure now.
Okay, so let's get into the details. The chapter first lists this remaining land, the stuff west of the Jordan that still needs taking but has to be allocated. What areas are we talking about? It sounds like quite a list.
It is quite a list. It starts off broad, all the regions belonging to the Philistines and the Geshurites.
The Philistines. Yeah, that name definitely rings a bell from later Bible stories. Powerful group along the coast.
Very powerful. And the text maps it out, geographically. From the Shihor River, which it says is east of Egypt, sort of the southern edge of Canaan, stretching all the way north up to Ekron's territory. And it explicitly says this is all counted as Canaanite land they hadn't fully secured.
And it mentions their main cities.
It does. Specifically names the territories of the 5 rulers: Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron.
The big 5 Philistine city-states.
Yeah. And it also loops in the territory of the Avites down south as part of this unconquered area.
So a big piece of the southern coast and nearby regions. What about heading north?
Well, the list keeps going. It mentions all the land of the Canaanites from era of the Sidonians as far as Aphek.
The Tidon Aphek. So now we're talking further up the Mediterranean coast, Phoenician territory.
Exactly. And it includes the region of the Amorites, somewhere in that northern coastal zone, too. Then it adds the area of the Jebelites.
Jebelites, that's Jabal, right, or Byblos, the famous ancient city in Lebanon.
That's the one. A major port city,
Yeah.
way up north where the Israelites had mainly settled.
Man, this unconquered land just keeps stretching further and further north.
It really does. And then it gets even broader, including all Lebanon to the east. It specifies from Baal Gad, which is below Mount Hermon, all the way up to Lebo Hamath.
So that's the whole Lebanon mountain range, the Bekaa Valley, heading towards modern Syria.
Pretty much. It's a huge geographical sweep from the border of Egypt practically up to central Syria and Lebanon.
That really drives home how much was, well, left to do. Or left for God to do, maybe.
Yes, and that's crucial because right in the middle of listing all these mountain people, from Lebanon down to Misrephoth Maim, basically the northern coastal regions, including the Sidonians, the Lord makes a specific promise.
Okay, what's the promise?
He says, regarding these inhabitants, specifically naming the Sidonians, I myself will drive them out before the Israelites.
I myself will drive them out. That's quite a statement right there, mixed in with the challenges.
It's the assurance. It's the why behind the command to allocate. Allocate it because I will deal with the current occupants. The human job of dividing relies entirely on the divine promise of victory.
And the specific instruction is to divide this land among.
Among the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh who were set to inherit land west of the Jordan.
Got it. So point 1. Huge list of unconquered land, but allocated anyway because God promises he'll handle the occupants.
Mm.
It really shifts the focus from earning by conquest to receiving by promise.
It's a fascinating blend of God's sovereign promise and human responsibility in response. They have to act in faith, doing the denying.
Okay, so after laying out the future inheritance west of the Jordan, the chapter shifts gears, doesn't it? It looks back.
Yes, it pivots to detail the land that was already allocated.
Well,
This is the land east of the Jordan River, which Moses had assigned before he died.
right. Moses, who the text calls the servant of the Lord, and which tribes got their land over there.
That was the other half of the tribe of Manasseh, plus the Reubenites and the Gadites.
Okay, let's walk through those. Starting with Reuben, where did they settle?
Reuben's territory, according to the text, starts down south at Aroer on the edge of the Arnon Gorge. That gorge was a major boundary marker.
Mm-hmm.
Their land went from the town in the middle of the gorge, covered the whole plateau northwards, past Medeba, all the way up towards Heshbon.
And it lists specific towns again, like it did for the Philistines.
Oh yeah, very specific. Heshbon itself and its surrounding towns are key. Then it names Dibon, Bamoth-baal, Beth-baal-meon, Jahaz, Ketmoth, Mepheth.
Wow, quite a list.
Kiriathaim, Sibma, Zareth-Shahar, which it notes is on a hill in the valley, Beth-Peor, the slopes of Pisgah.
Pisgah, that's where Moses saw the promised land from.
That's the traditional area, yes.
Yeah.
And Beth-Jeshemoth, too. It's a really detailed map in words.
And this whole area used to belong to someone specific.
Yes, the text points out this included all the towns on that plateau and was the entire kingdom of Sihon, the Amorite king who ruled from Heshbon.
Sihon, right, another throwback. Moses dealt with him.
Exactly. The chapter explicitly reminds us that Moses had defeated Sihon. That victory was, essential for the Israelites getting this eastern territory in the first place. It also mentions Moses beating Sihon's allies, the Midianite chiefs who lived there, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba.
And then there's that slightly odd detail thrown in right after the defeated kings.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's placed right here. It mentions Balaam, son of Beor,
The prophet for hire guy.
the one who practiced divination, yes. The text states he was killed by the Israelites along with the others in that campaign.
So listing the land also involves remembering these past conflicts and, well, judgments, not just against kings, but others too.
It seems so. It frames the inheritance within that history of victory under Moses. The description for Reuben wraps up by saying their boundary was the Jordan River's bank, and these specific towns and villages were their inheritance, assigned clan by clan. Very orderly.
Okay, so that's Reuben in the southeast. Moving north from them, who's next? Gad.
Gad is next, yes. Their territory included the area around Jazer, all the towns of Gilead, which was a pretty large and fertile region east of the Jordan. And it also included about half the Ammonite country, going as far as Aroer near Rabbah.
Rabbah, that was the main Ammonite city, wasn't it? So Gad's land bordered the
It
Ammonites.
seems so. And again, we get specific boundary markers.
Yeah.
From Heshbon, sort of linking up with Reuben's northern border up to Ramoth Mizpah and Betonim, and also from Mahanim northwards to the area of Debir.
Did they get any valley land? Or just Gilead?
No, they got valley areas too. The text lists Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Sukkoth, and Zaphon. And interestingly, these spots were also part of what used to be Sihon's kingdom. So Gad got the northern chunk of Sihon's old realm and apparently stretched even beyond that.
And this is all still east of the Jordan River.
Definitely east. It clarifies their territory went up to the southern end of the Sea of Kinnereth.
Kinnereth, Sea of Galilee.
That's the one. So that formed a clear northern point for them on the eastern side.
Okay, so again, for Gad, specific places, clear boundaries, all assigned by Moses, clan by clan.
Exactly. The text is very consistent in emphasizing that detail.
Right, then there's the last group on the east side, the half-tribe of Manasseh. What about their land?
So yeah, this is for the other half of Manasseh's descendants, also assigned clan by clan. Their territory was north of Gad's. It started from Mahanim and was huge. It included all of Bashan.
Bashan, known for, giant kings and good pasture land.
That's the reputation. Bashan was the kingdom of Og. Remember Og, king of Bashan?
Uh-huh.
Another one of the powerful kings Moses defeated before crossing the Jordan. That victory opened up this whole northern region.
And does it list specific places within Bashan for Manasseh?
It does. It mentions all the settlements of Jer and Bashan and gives a number 60 towns. That's quite specific.
60 towns, wow.
Yeah. It also says they got half of Gilead, the northern half, presumably, since Gad got the other part, and Ashtaroth and Edrei. The text calls these the royal cities of Og in Bashan.
So they inherited the very centers of power of the previous kingdom. Was this assigned to any particular family within Manasseh?
Yes, the source is quite clear on that. It says this inheritance went to the descendants of Machir, who was Manasseh's son, specifically half of Machir's sons, clan by clan. So there's even a subdivision noted within that half tribe.
And just to tie it off, where did Moses actually make this allocation?
The text locates the event, saying Moses gave them this inheritance in the plains of Moab, which is described as being across the Jordan east of Jericho. It gives a geographical anchor point relative to the main crossing point into Canaan.
Okay, so chapter 13 really lays out two big pictures then. First, the detailed map of land already given out and largely settled east of the Jordan, assigned by Moses. Then second, this equally long list of territories west of the Jordan that are not yet taken, but which Joshua is told to divide up now based on God's promise.
That's the core structure, yes. It contrasts the accomplished past with the challenging, promise-based future. It reflects on God's faithfulness already shown in the East, while calling for faith and action regarding the West.
But in all this talk of dividing land, there's one group left out.
Right. The exception, the tribe of Levi.
Yeah, the chapter makes a point of saying Moses gave no land inheritance to the Levites.
It reiterates that established principle. They weren't given a geographical territory like the other tribes.
So what was their inheritance? How were they supposed to, live?
Their provision was tied directly to their religious function. The text says their inheritance was the offerings made by fire to the Lord, the God of Israel. This was fulfilling what the Lord had promised them earlier.
Okay. So their support came from the sacrifices and tithes brought by the other tribes. Their inheritance wasn't land, but a share in the nation's worship directed towards God.
Exactly. It connects them to the whole community through the sacrificial system rather than tying them to one piece of land. It underscores that different roles within Israel had different kinds of divine provision.
So let's try to pull this together. We've got Joshua. He's old. There's still lots of land to conquer. But the command is to allocate it now, even the unconquered bits. We've got a detailed look back at the land Moses already gave out east of the Jordan, Reuben, Gad, half Manasseh, with all those place names and historical footnotes about Sihon, Og, even Balaam, and then the special case of Levi. What's the big takeaway from all this complexity?
I think it's about how God's provision and instructions work on multiple levels simultaneously. You've got the tangible, accomplished fact of the Eastern inheritance, proof of past faithfulness. Then you have this command to act on the future promise for the Western land, a real exercise in faith.
It really feels like a lesson in living based on promise, doesn't it? You structure your present, you make decisions based on what God said will happen, even if you can't fully see it or control it yet.
Absolutely. It's about receiving the promise. The inheritance itself is framed as a gift, and then organizing life around that promise, even knowing there's still work and waiting involved. And it also shows God provides in different ways land for most, but a different service-based provision for Levi.
It's also quite a human story, isn't it, Joshua? Getting older, but still given this crucial, forward-looking task. The people, having come so far, but facing huge challenges still. Yet, amidst all that, the plan for the future, the structure, is being laid out right now.
It definitely bridges that gap between past victories, present realities, including the incomplete ones, and the future fulfillment that relies on God.
So, to quickly recap our deep dive into Joshua 13, we saw Joshua's age contrasting with the large amount of land still unconquered. The key command wasn't immediate conquest, but immediate allocation of that future inheritance based on God's promise to drive out the inhabitants. We walk through the detailed records of the land already given by Moses east of the Jordan to Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh, recalling specific places and past victories. And we noted the unique status of Levi, whose inheritance was the Lord's offerings, not land.
And understanding this chapter is really key for what follows, the actual division of the Western land. It establishes that the allocation isn't just about rewarding military success, it's fundamentally an act of faith, distributing God's promised gift according to his instructions through Joshua.
Which leaves us with something to think about, perhaps. What does it mean for you, in your own situation, to hold on to a promise or an inheritance for something that isn't fully yours yet? How do you act now? How do you plan or structure things based on a future reality you trust is coming, even when you can clearly see the challenges the remaining land still ahead?